Good morning, NFC East, everybody. Happy Friday. Jeff Kerr, Tone DeShields here. We are 2 days away from the NFC Championship game. This is our last show before the NFC Championship game. And I just keep thinking of what Jonathan Gannon said earlier this week, Tone. He was on the Minnesota Vikings sideline when they faced the Philadelphia Eagles the last time they hosted an NFC Championship game, and he talked to Harrison Smith, and he said how rocking that place was and how they couldn't hear anything. Well, I'll tell you what, Tone, I think it's going to be that and even louder on Sunday.
I completely agree with you, man. I don't know what it is. This run feels a bit different than the 2017 run. The 2017 run seemed much more improbable because of, I guess, the circumstances. But this year, I feel a certain level of confidence that I haven't felt in the playoffs in quite a long time now. Is that arrogance? Maybe. Is that cockiness? Sure. But I just believe this team is so good, so complete. And I think they got it right at the quarterback position in terms of just the leadership and the ability to make plays and be the ultimate decision maker and just do whatever it takes to win. You know, I think this city has every right to blow the top off of Lincoln Financial Field this weekend, and that's what they have to do. You know, they talk about Brock Purdy being this kid that's poised and built for any situation. You know, he's ahead of his years and so on and so forth. But I know some people like to downplay this, but that environment is going to be very, very different than anything he's ever experienced, and the stakes are at its highest. Every throw matters, every snap matters. So I'm really curious to see how Brock Purdy responds to the environment itself, because again, we're not talking about people just saying like, "Hey, screw you," like they hear that all the time. We're talking about just the sheer volume of sound, the ability to get your calls through, right? The ability to get your calls through, during the snap, before the clock snaps. You know what I mean? Like, because you don't want to get delay of games. If you start to see a lot of false starts, delay of games on the 49ers side of the ball, then we're in business here. So, we'll see what happens. But ultimately, man, you're right. It's Friday, 2 more days before the NFC Championship game. What more can we ask for, Jeff? This is what we asked for. This is the matchup we asked for. This is the matchup we all deserve.
I think into what you said about this being different than 2017. If you remember 2017, the Eagles, before they beat the Falcons in the divisional round, they hadn't won a playoff game since the 2008 NFC divisional playoffs when they beat the Giants on the road. They didn't win a home playoff game since 2006 against the Giants in the wild card game. So that all factors into play too. This city was starving just to have a deep postseason run again. And then on top of that, they were the number 1 seed in the NFC and they were disrespected. I mean, people want to talk about the disrespect. It was really real in 2017. You were a home underdog to a 6th seed. So that already fired up the fan base. Then you had Minnesota come in there with their Minnesota Nice and basically invade the town, invade the Rocky statue. And Philadelphia said, well, oh, no, you ain't walking into our beehive. You're not walking in there and without getting stung. Well, guess what? They learned. I think San Francisco doesn't realize that. They're the only team that's never played the Eagles in a playoff game in Philadelphia in the NFC. They're the only one. Every team has done it at some point in their franchise history. The Eagles and 49ers have only met in the postseason. This is good. This is just the second time. The first time was not a fun time for a young Eagles fan. It was not. I was a big Steve Young fan growing up, but I love the Eagles. Steve Young and the 49ers whooped the Eagles you-know-whats that day in Candlestick Park. It was rainy. It was 60-mile-per-hour winds. Ty Detmer was the Eagles quarterback, and I'm sitting there telling like, this ain't going to be good. Well, Ty Detmer got hurt. Mark Rippon came in. The Eagles didn't score a point. The Eagles still have not scored a point against the 49ers in the playoffs. I think that'll change on Sunday. But I don't think the 49ers understand the atmosphere they're actually coming into on Sunday. This crowd is going to be loud because it's not just that the Eagles are good. They're very good, just like the 49ers. And this is the matchup the Eagles have wanted for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I feel like we are going to get the NFC Championship game the NFL deserves, both fans of both teams deserve. We're going to find out right now who's the best of the best. This is going to be a 12-round heavyweight fight.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you mentioned the disrespect from 2017. I think the Eagles are being disrespected again this year as well, right? And let me tell you why. When I say that, people kind of wonder what I'm talking about. We're the number one seed and our roster is so complete, right? People feel like there are compliments galore, going around the national landscape. But hear me out on this, Jeff. Every time I hear a conversation about 49ers and Eagles in the NFC Championship, it always seems as though people are talking about, wow, the Eagles haven't faced a defense like this before. Wow, the Eagles need to worry about this. The Eagles need to worry about that. It's always approached from that angle. But let me remind people, yeah, the 49ers have the number one defense, but the Eagles have the number two defense right behind them, right? Yeah, the 49ers are ranked number one against the run, right? The Eagles are ranked number one against the pass, right? So the 49ers struggle against the pass. Okay, the Eagles struggled against the run, but they improved. They went from being bottom half of the league to being about right there at the midpoint in the league. I think they're ranked 16th against the run, right? So I say all that to say, yeah, the 49ers or the Eagles haven't faced a team like the 49ers. The 49ers haven't faced a team like the Eagles. So I think that's the level of disrespect that I'm feeling, Jeff. And let's really put it into perspective, right? I think there's more pressure on the 49ers. And let me tell you why. The pressure's on the 49ers to get it done because over the past handful of years, they have come close, but have still not taken home the prom queen. The Philadelphia Eagles, sure, we haven't had the same amount of opportunities as the 49ers to get to the big dance, but best believe when we got our opportunity to get to the big dance, when we had the opportunity to get into the NFC Championship and into a Super Bowl, we took home the prom queen. You know what I mean? As a matter of fact, we took home the prom queen and her best friend. So let me put this in perspective for 49ers fans and Eagles fans, okay? We don't give credit for just putting your name on a sheet of paper. You don't get credit for showing up, okay? You got to deliver. And that's just and that's how I'm approaching this, but what's your perspective on the disrespect, if it even exists, against the Philadelphia Eagles?
I was going to ask you, do you feel the 49ers are getting disrespected too? I mean,
I don't know. I don't think that. I've been really locked in on a lot of content, because of this this NFC Championship. And again, it just seems as though a lot of people, especially national people, they're really locked in on just the fact that, oh yeah, like what's Jalen Hurts going to do against this fast physical defense? They're going to make him pay if he leaves that pocket in. What's this Eagles defense going to do against Christian McCaffrey? I haven't heard Miles Sanders' name mentioned once. I haven't heard Kenny Gainwell's name mentioned once, right? People always say how they're going to guard George Kittle. How are you going to guard Dallas Goedert? Oh, what are they going to do about Debo? What you going to do about A.J. Brown? So I don't think the 49ers are being disrespected in this regard because they have this so-called play-calling guru who is the ultimate choke artist. Let's be totally honest. All flash and no delivery. And look, this isn't about me disrespecting Kyle Shanahan or anybody else. This is just the facts, right? Again, you don't get credit for just showing up. And I just don't think the 49ers have been disrespected the way the Eagles have. But I think that's just the Philly narrative. I think that's just what comes with the territory.
That's something to watch out for, too. I'm glad you brought up Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is a great game planner. But in-game situations, he lacks big time. We've seen this in Super Bowl 51, in Super Bowl 54, last week's game, past NFC Championship games. He gets either too aggressive or too conservative, and it bites him. And you can't do that against a team with an explosive offense like the Eagles. You can't, because there's multiple ways they can beat you. I think the disrespect, honestly, Tone, if coming from the Eagles side, I don't think 49ers fans respect Jalen Hurts enough. Because they're saying he's under a lot of pressure, and he hasn't faced this, and he hasn't faced that. Brock Purdy has more playoff wins than him. So we're punishing Jalen Hurts now.
That's such a shitty argument. I can't stand that whole he has more playoff wins. I can't stand that argument, honestly. That's such a crappy argument.
Yeah, so we're punishing Jalen Hurts because he got the bye? Is that what we're doing? I don't know, Tone. To me, I feel like the level of disrespect for Jalen Hurts will always grow. Nationally, I will say this. Overall, I think everybody agrees Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback now. But I still feel like people don't want to admit they're wrong about Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, like another thing, man, like to your point about Jalen Hurts and the disrespect he's been getting, right? People are condemning him for only throwing for about 155, 154 yards in the divisional round against the Giants. Well, there is a such thing as a game plan, you guys. There is a such thing as a complexion of the game. Games have a pulse. Games take on an identity as they develop. And throughout that game, the Eagles were just poking and prodding at the Giants to find out where are their weaknesses today. Not what are their weaknesses on paper. Where are their weaknesses today while we're playing them? The Eagles ran the ball. They passed the ball. And it got to a point in the game where they said, hold on, they're not stopping the run at all. We're going to run it down their throats. Oh, by the way, we could preserve our quarterback and we don't have to put him in harm's way. We could actually lower the mileage on our quarterback and still dominate this game. So I'm tired of people using, oh, he only threw for 154 yards in a playoff game. That's the lowest since 2016 or whatever. What are we talking about here? They blew that team out. Was it 31-7?
38-7.
38-7. Like, what are we talking about? How many passing yards he threw in the playoff game where they blew the team out 38-7? He threw 2 touchdowns and ran for 1? What are we talking about here, Jeff?
This is my favorite part of that when I heard someone mention that too. He was 7 for 7 for, I think, 98 yards in the first quarter.
That's what I'm saying, with over 100 yards.
I don't get it. I don't get it, man. I really don't understand why you need to throw for 400 yards like Joe Burrow does to get respect. By the way, Joe Burrow doesn't get any respect either for all the stuff he does. I feel like he's one of those guys where he just wins. And I'm in a way, I'm part of it because I still think the Chiefs are going to beat them this week. I don't know. To me, I picked the Bills to beat the Bengals. And I was like, after watching the game, I'm like, wow, I was dead wrong on this. The Bengals should kill this team, and they probably should beat the Chiefs too. But I just like the way this Chiefs team is built this year and how they can beat you death by 1,000 cuts. That's kind of like how the Eagles are. There's multiple ways they can beat you. And I think it's different, Tone. It does feel like 2004 a bit. The Eagles are just that good. They are that good. They are that much better than their competition. But the difference is there's a team that can match up with them. There are teams that can match up with them. In 2004, there were probably only 1 or 2 teams that can match up with them, and they were both in the AFC. The NFC, there actually is a team that is just as good as them, and that's San Francisco. That's why I'm excited for this game. It's iron versus iron.
Mm-hmm. It's like their perfect counterpart, right? Yin versus yang, right? Like Adonis, Zeus versus Poseidon. This is a battle of the NFC gods. Like, again, I've said it before. This is the matchup that we all deserve. I love the fact that it's the number 1 and the number 2 seed in the NFC Championship, and I love the fact that it's the Eagles and the 49ers because throughout this entire season, the Philadelphia Eagles and the 49ers have proven that they are the most dominant, the most physically imposing teams in the NFL. I don't think any team in the NFC, but also in the NFL, can match up with the Eagles or the 49ers player for player. I just don't think like that the 49ers and the Eagles are literally the perfect counterpart, right? And I have a bold prediction here. Maybe it's not that bold, but you tell me, Jeff. I think the winner of the NFC Championship wins it all. Because of the rosters being so complete, the defenses being so dominant, because they're getting very, very solid quarterback play. I understand the AFC has the best quarterbacks in the playoffs right now with Burrow and Mahomes. I totally get that. But when you get into those playoffs, man, well, not playoffs, but when you get into that Super Bowl, I know Mahomes has been there. Burrow has been there. They're all looking for something to prove. I just think the teams in the NFC, their rosters are just so good from top to bottom. I just think the winner of the Super Bowl is going to come out of the NFC.
I don't think that's a far-fetched prediction at all, honestly, just because of how talented the Eagles and the 49ers are. And whoever faces the Chiefs or the Bengals, it's going to be a great Super Bowl. Mahomes, definitely the legacy thing. I mean, he could have 2 Super Bowls and 2 MVPs before he turns 28, which is insane. Joe Burrow, who's 5-1 in the playoffs and looks like he's going to win multiple Super Bowl titles at the rate he's going. And that Bengals team is really good. They are really good. And I think this is going to be, not shifting gears too much, but the AFC Championship game, the Bengals offensive line was very good because Joe Burrow gets rid of the ball quick. I'm curious to see how that works this week against a better pass rush, against a pass rush I can get to Burrow if this makeshift offensive line can do it. And how the Chiefs handle having a fourth quarter lead this time. They've had a fourth quarter lead in all 3 games against the Bengals, and they lost by 3 each game. They just don't play well in the fourth quarter against Cincinnati because Joe Burrow just decides to target Jamar Chase. By the way, don't you feel Jalen Hurts gets the disrespect too in this regard? Well, he's got AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, but I'm combining them now. Well, Joe Burrow needed Jamar Chase to be elite. He needed his guy. I mean, he was good his rookie year, but he has Jamar Chase. He has T. Higgins. He has Tyler Boyd.
Who I think doesn't get enough respect. Tyler Boyd is a very good wide receiver.
Yeah, and like, there's no disrespect toward Burrow. I love how Joe Burrow has those guys, just like how I love Jalen Hurts has those guys. If you're going to use one argument for one quarterback, why don't you use it for the other?
Completely agree. You know, I've never been a guy to say, oh, they have this around them, so that's why they're good, right? I mean, certain situations, you always kind of scratch your head about it, like the Brock Purdy situation. It's like, oh, he has all these pieces. How good is he really? But there are certain guys where you know that they're the engine behind this thing, right? But overall, though, I don't like to say, oh, this guy has this, that's why he's that good. At the end of the day, you got to throw that ball and you got to deliver the goods, right? And that argument is always brought up with Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. You know, how good is he really, right? He has this perfect situation. Okay, and Joe Burrow has a perfect situation. He has a defense. He has he has 2 number 1 wide receivers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and he has the perfect number 2 playing the number 3 role in Tyler Boyd. And he has a pretty serviceable tight end. So, look, I hate that argument. I hate when people try to approach it from that perspective. You know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You can't just, change your argument, change your narrative, to fit whatever point you're trying to make. But we have our guy Tom Kelly from WIP ready in the rafters, ready to give his opinion, his final opinion before the Philadelphia Eagles face off against the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC Championship. You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East. He's Jeff Kerr. I'm Tone DeShields II. You guys don't want to miss this.